Okay, hello, integrated math. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you had a nice weekend. So, this is part two. Remember that we're going to have three parts. After looking at this one, this is the one you guys kind of struggled on. So, I'm actually going to make this one worth 20 points. So, we get it done, turn it in with your final, get 20 points. That makes all of the reviews together worth 40 points because part one and part three are going to be worth 10. So, here we go. Unit 2 really focuses around the manner in which we solve quadratic equations algebraically. That means that we are going to be working with squares. So one of the skills we want to start with is multiplying binomials. Now, each one of these little boogers right here, boom, boom, that's a binomial. Bi means two. So nomial means binomial. So we have two nomials. Numbers or terms. So when we have 5v plus 3, that's a binomial. And 5v minus 1 is a binomial. That lovely sound you hear in the background is my daughter's kitten playing with an ornament. So, yeah, there's that. See? You get entertainment along with the boring tone of my voice. Anyway, so what we do here is we call it foiling when we multiply two binomials together. And this is why. FOIL stands for first outer, inner, last. I know you guys have gone through this already. I just want to review. So first, outer, inner, last. And what that means is that when we're multiplying this, we're basically distributing one binomial to the other. So, oh shush. See, I'm doing this while I'm trying to pet two cats at the same time. Anyway. So we have our 5 V's, and those are the first. And the F and for first refers to where they are in the binomial. So the first term of the two binomials, 5b and 5v. We then have our outer ones, and our outer ones are in relation to the entire problem, okay? So we have the 5v and the negative 1. The inner or inside ones are on the inside of the problem. So we have the 3 and the 5v. And then last accounts for the 3 and the negative 1. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add all those together. So our F's are 5v times 5v, or 25v squared. Our O's are 5v times negative 1, or negative 5v. Our I's are 3 times 5v, or 15v. And our L's are 3 times negative 1, or negative 3. We then combine like terms. So we have 25v squared plus 10v, because negative 5v plus 15v is 10v minus 3. And that's our answer. So we need to follow the foiling process of multiplying the first terms, the outside terms, the inside terms, and the last terms. And then we combine like terms, and we're done. So let's do another one. So here are 5x and our 4x. Those are our F's. Our 5x and our 3 are our O's. Negative 1 and the 4x are i's, and the negative 1 and the 3 are the l's. So when we FOIL, we start off with 5x times 4x. We're going to add to that our o's, 5x times 3. We're going to add to that our i's, which is negative 1 and... I'm not sure what I just wrote there. Oh. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong problem. I got confused. Negative 1 and 4x. And then our l's, which are negative 1 and 3. I was looking at number 1 again. Silly me. So we have 20x squared plus 15x minus 4x minus 3. We then combine the like terms in the middle. So we get 20x squared plus 11x minus 3. So what I want you guys to do now is look at number 3 and number 4. And I want you, so the sub, if you just hit pause on this for about 5 minutes and let them work through 3 and 4 by themselves. If they need longer, that's cool. If they get done earlier, awesome. But I just want, bless you. And I just want to make sure that they have time to work this. And then when they come back to this, we'll go ahead and show you how to do it. So hit pause, come back when you're ready. So number 3, try and speed this up just a little. So we have our F's, our O's, our I's, and our L's. So when we multiply our F's together, we get 5b times 5b. Our O's are going to be, and we're adding these together, our O's are going to be 5b times negative 7. Our I's are going to be negative 6 times 5b. And I need to go let my dog out. Give me just a second. And we're back. So we then have negative 6 times negative 7. So that gives us 25b squared minus 35b minus 30b plus 42. That's plus 42 because we're multiplying two negatives together. So we have negative 6 times negative 7. That gives us a positive 42. Combine like terms in the middle. We end up with 25b squared minus 65b plus 42. And that's the answer. So again, it's important because so your reviews are completion grades. So as long as you're getting the work done, the process of it and going through everything is more important than getting it right. So it's important that you look over this, that you actually try it by yourself when you're given, that you actually try it by yourself when you're given the opportunity, when you're given those 5 minutes, because then you can look at what you did, look at what I did, and see where any mistakes were made. And, every now and then the mistake will be mine. So, on to, hopefully you guys took advantage and did number 4. So we're going to go on to number 4. Our F's, our O's, our I's, and our L's. So we have 8x times x plus 8x are O's times negative 6 plus 3 times x. And then we have 3 times negative 6 as well. Those are our L's. We multiply those together. We get 8x squared minus 48x, 8x times negative 6, plus 3x, 3 times x, minus 18. 3 times negative 6. Combine the 2 in the middle. We get 8x squared minus 45x minus 18. So again, we're going to take a little break. I want you guys to do number 5 and 6. And so about 3-4 minutes. Or 5 or 2 or 6 or whatever it takes, as long as you guys are working hard. And we'll come back and review how it's done. Okay, so go ahead and hit pause. On we go. So I'm going to skip labeling them FOIL right now. That doesn't mean you need to, okay? If the FOIL helps you, go ahead and do it. Do it all day long. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's really, if you're like, okay, what do I multiply by what? What do I add to what? Do the F's, do the O's, do the I's, do the L's. So our two firsts here are 7K and 7K. Our outside ones are 7K and 8. See how we multiply the first ones together and then the outside? Our inside ones, 7 times 7K. And our outside ones are 7 times 8. Multiply through, that gives us 49K squared. Rarity. Plus 56K. Plus 49K. Plus 56. Combine the 2 in the middle, we get 49K squared. Plus 115. 105. Plus 56. And that's the answer. So when we FOIL, that's what it looks like. And if you look back and if you do those little, rainbows, the little distribution arcs, if you look at where your F's are, notice those are our F's. Those are our O's. Say that 10 times fast. Those are our I's. And those are our L's. So, multiply 8n by 6n. Those are our F's. We're then going to multiply 8n by negative 8. Those are our O's. They're on the outside of the problem. We're then going to multiply our I's, negative 2 and 6n. And to that, we're going to add our L's, negative 2 times negative 8. And if you guys need to, plug these into a calculator. Totally okay. 48n squared minus, I put 56n. That's actually 64. So I'm going to have to stop and go and change that. Because funny enough, 8 times 8 is not 56. See, that's what I was talking about. Stick around long enough, even I make mistakes. I'm just kidding. I make mistakes all the time. Like I just did there. Erased it and went back and put 56. So we then have 48n, and I did 56, 48n squared, and I did 56 minus 12, so I got 78n, when in reality we should be going 64 minus 12. Wow, what was the thing? I was all sorts of wrong on this one. And we get negative 76 plus 16. So that's it with the right numbers. So, moving on. We're now looking at 7 and 8. And again, take a break, work through this, and do what you got to do. Now, hopefully, as we go through these and you grow more familiar with them, you get quicker at them. Doesn't mean that you aren't doing it correctly, just get more familiar with it. So the process of setting up all your multiplication problems becomes a lot easier. You going to bed, hon? Okay, good night, sweetie pie. So, take a break and come back when you're ready. So number 7, we're going to draw our little arcs and start putting this thing together. So our first, 6x times 2x. Our outside gives us 6x times 2. Our insides give us negative 8 times 2x. Like the inside numbers, not like my insides, like my spleen. And then our last ones are negative 8 times 2. We then multiply them together. 6 times 2 is 12. X times x is x squared. 6 times 2 is 12, so we have 12x. Negative 8 times 2 is negative 16x. Negative 8 times 2 is negative 16. We then join our two middle terms because they're alike. And we have 12 minus 16, or negative 4. And then we finish it off with that negative 16 on the end. Apparently, I was feeling antsy and jumped right into number 8. So same thing again. We're going to draw our little foil arcs, if you will. So our first, we have 7r and 8r. We're going to add to that our O's, 7r and negative 8. Add to that our I's, 1 and 8r. And our L's, negative 8 and 1. Those are actually backwards. Anyway, now that 56, that belongs. It's not like that other Trixie 56. No, this one's legit. So we have 56r squared minus 56r plus 8r minus 8. And when we add those two middle ones, we get negative 48r minus 8. Next up are 9 and 10. So I know you're probably getting a little bit tired of these, but it's the repetition, it's the practice that will really build these skill sets for you. So take a quick break, and we'll be back to work through 9 and 10. And we're back. So we're looking at number 9. Draw our foil arcs. First one is going to be 4a times 2a. Outside is 4a times 4. Inside or inner are negative 6 times 2a. Hey, Cleo. And the last ones are going to be negative 6 times 4. Then do the multiplication. That's 8a squared plus 16a minus 12a minus 24. It's going to give us 8a squared minus 4a minus 24. And that's how we do it. So on this next one, do your FOIL arcs. Our first are r times 4r. Our outer are r times -1. And then our inner, 4 times 4r. Four times 4r. And our last one's 4 times -1. We then do the multiplication, and we get 4r squared minus r plus 16r minus 4. Now here we need to combine like terms, so we have the -r and the 16r right there. So we're going to go 4r squared plus 15r minus 4. That's our work. So let's keep going. Okay, so we're not going to do 13 or 14, but I do want to do 11 and 12. So I'm going to show you how to do 11, then give you some time to do 12. So 11, we not only have to multiply the first one by 2 of them, we have to go by all 3. Same thing with the constant term of the binomial. So here, we're going to go b times 7b squared, b times -4b, and then we need to do our b times 1. And then we go back to the beginning and start again, but this time instead of the b, using the -7. So we go -7 times 7b squared. We have -7 times -4b. And then we have -7 times 1. So 7b cubed minus 4b squared minus 45b squared plus 28b minus 7. So 7b cubed, that's it. There's only one of them. But we have both the 4b squared and the 49b squared. They're both negatives. So we have -4 minus 49 is -53b squared. And then we have 29b minus 7. And that would be how that works. So what I want you guys to do is now, having written that down, look at number 12 and do your best to try and solve number 12. This might take, at least 5 minutes. So, anyway, do our little rainbow arcs. That tells us what we're going to be multiplying to get through. So here we do our first ones. So we end up with 7n and 8n squared, plus our outside 7m and -5. We then have 7n times -5 and -7 times. All right, sorry, got a little confused. We have 7n times -6, 7n times -5. Then we go back and we multiply that -5 by everything. -5 by 8n squared, -5 by -6n, and -5 by -5. That gives us 56n to the third minus 42n minus 35 plus... I keep looking at the wrong one. Anyway, okay. So we ended up with 56, 42, 45, negative 30, positive 30, 25. Now notice, though, that we can only combine the ones that have like terms. In this case, literally like the exact same, okay? So the n and the n squareds can't be added together or anything like that. But so we start looking, and I like to go in order of descending powers. So because we have an n to the third there, we're going to go 56n cubed. We then have two n squares, negative 42 and negative 30. So that's going to become negative 72n squared. And then we have our n's, that's negative 45 and plus 13. So we get negative 15n plus 25. Now this, because we have a 2 times 3, we actually are going to end up with 4 terms. So hopefully this is helping. And hold on just a second. So on these ones, we're factoring completely. So we have 2 sets of ways in which we can factor a trinomial into 2 binomials. The first is if a equals 1. What we're looking for, what 2 factors equal c. And remember, when I'm talking about ABC, what I'm talking about is any quadratic in standard form will look like that: ax squared plus bx plus c. So again, this is if a equals 1. What times what equals c, and those 2 numbers now need to add up to b. So here we have 1 and negative 18, 2 and negative 9. Now, how do I know that the 18 and the 9 are negative? Well, I know when they multiply together, so we're looking for the product, we get negative 18, but when we add them together, we get a negative 7. So under these circumstances, we make sure that the larger number, the 18 and the 9, those are the larger number, the 9. Those are the negative ones, so that when we add them together, we get a negative 7. We then take this, so 2x minus 9, and we put it into parentheses of x plus one of the numbers, or in this case, b plus 2, times b minus 9, and that's our answer. Everything with the zero product theorem and everything, that's the next chapter. So, number 17, we're looking for what times what equals 70, and what plus what equals 17. I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes. I just want you to find those 2 numbers. What 2 numbers, when added together, equal 17, but when multiplied together equals 70? And the answer is, I don't know. So when we're factoring out c, we get 1 and 70, 2 and 35, 5 and 14, 7 and 10. 7 and 10 works because we know that 7 times 10 equals 70, and 7 plus 10 equals 17. So we then have p plus 7, p plus 10. So I want you guys to stop for a second, hit pause on this, and try number 16, because I can read 16. Okay, and we're back. So what 2 numbers when multiplied equal negative 27, but when added together equal negative 6. One and 27 2 doesn't work. 3 and negative 9. Again, why are the 9 and the negative 27 negative instead of the 1 and the 3? And that's because those are the larger numbers. And we know when they add up together, they have to equal a negative 6. So we end up with m plus 3 times m minus 9. So we're looking at number 19 now. What two numbers multiplied together equal negative 28, and when added together equal negative 3? We get 4 and negative 7. 4, come on, there we go. 4 and negative 7, 4 and negative 7. So that gives me x plus 4 times x minus 7. And that's that. So when we're doing them and a doesn't equal 1, there are some steps to follow. Now you should have these steps in your notes, but I went ahead and gave them to you anyway. So these look awfully close to the 9 steps we used when we were solving them. But since we're not actually solving them, we don't have step 1 or step 9. So identify A, B, and C. Multiply A times C. Factor out A to C and find the factors that add up to B. There's my cat playing piano. We then have grouped the first 2 and the second 2 with parentheses. I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. Factor out the greatest common factor from both binomials. So where you'll be thankful that we put all that work in on worksheet number 1. And then factor out the common binomial. So this is how this works. So like 15, we have A equals 3, B equals negative 7, and C equals, which number am I doing? Oh, I'm doing 18. Adar. So 2 times, number 2, 3 times 24 equals 72. So we're now going to find the factors of 72. 3, that's step 3. So we have negative 1 and negative 72. Notice that I'm having both of them negative because when they add up together, they need to equal a negative number. And when they multiply together, they need to equal a positive number. The only way to get a positive number when multiplying is to multiply together 2 positives or 2 negatives. The only way to get a the only one of those which will give us a negative sum is by multiplying 2 negatives together. So, negative 2, negative 36. Remember, we're trying to get it to add up to negative 18. Negative 3 and negative 24 would be negative 27. Negative 4 and negative 18 would be negative 22. Negative 6 and negative 12 is negative 18. So the next step 4 is we rewrite the equation with B with our factors instead of B. Before, we would have written it as negative 18. Now we're writing it as negative 6 and negative 12. We then group the first 2 together, and this is what I'm talking about. We group together 3v squared and negative 6v, and then we group together 12v and 24, negative 12v and 24. It then says factor the greatest common factor out of each. So what I want you guys to do is look back at your first worksheet and the final review, part 1. Look at what we did to factor out the greatest common factor, and go from there. Okay, so what we want to do first is we want to do the prime factorization of both terms. So we're going to do the prime factorization of 3b squared and 6b. 3 is a prime number, so we just have 3vb. Negative 6, we're going to go negative 1 times 3 times 2. We then want to look at them and see what they have in common. Well, they both have a v, and they both have a 3. So we take that 3 times v and move it outside. What's left, we then join up inside the parentheses. And we get v minus 2. And that's the factoring out from that side. We then do the same thing with 12v and 24. Negative 12v breaks down to negative 1 times 12 times v. 12 breaks down to 2 times 6. 6 breaks down to 2 times 3. And those are our prime factors. Negative 1, 2, 2, 3, and your signature. I don't know why I just said that. So there you go. It is currently 1:20 in the morning. So if I say ridiculous things, I don't know why. So we then have 24 breaking down to 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 12 breaking down to 2 and 6, 6 breaking down to 2 and 3. So the prime factorization of 24 is 1, 2, 2, 2, 3. Now notice what I'm doing here is I'm breaking off that 1 that's always present into 2 negative ones, because I know that when I multiply 2 negatives together, I'm going to get a positive. So in this case, I know that if I multiply negative 1 times negative 1, I get positive 1. So why I did that was because if you look back at what we're trying to see here, we have that v minus 2. And if I had just gone on, I would have ended with negative v plus 2. So I'm going to pull a negative 1 out front. So whenever you have a negative at the front of your second binomial, always, always, always break that 1 down when you're factoring into 2 negative ones. And that's tricky. So if you don't get that right away, that's totally okay. So we're going to take the negative 1 and basically 12. So we have negative 6, which we can pull out. And then we have v minus 2. So it's actually a negative 12 that we pulled out. So we have 3v times v minus 2 plus negative 12. Fix that. And to that, we're going to add negative 12 times v minus 2. So we then factor out the greatest common binomial. So in this case, we're doing the exact same process that we just did. But instead of factoring out 2 terms, we're doing this, well, no, it's exactly the same thing. There is no difference. So cross those out, right? What's left? 3v minus 12. Again, I'll fix that. And that is how you solve via factoring. One more, and then we should be, I think, okay. So here, a equals, we're looking at number 20. A equals 2, b equals negative 6, and c equals negative 20. That's step 1. Step 2, we multiply a times c. 2 times negative 20 gives us negative 40. And I'm going to find the factors of negative 40. Totally forgot to hit the record button again. So what we do is we listed out the factors of negative 40 and kept going until we found the factors that added up to negative 6. And that was 4 and negative 10. So we're going to step 4, which is rewriting. So we had 2b squared minus 10b plus 4b minus 20. Group. 2b squared minus 10b gets grouped together. Then we group together 4b and negative 20. And then we go about finding the greatest common factor of each. To do this again, what we want to do is we want to follow the steps that we just did on the first worksheet and do the prime factorization. So we have 2. If you forget how to do this, go back and watch it. I think it's called Integrated Math 12.6 is the name of the video. And fast forward it until you get to the part where you're factoring out the greatest common factor. Watch me do those, and you're good to go. So we have 2 times b times b. negative 1 times 10 times b. Or 2 times 5 times b. What do they have in common? They both have a 2 and a b. So we take those outside, put the b minus 5 on the inside. Repeat that process with 4b and negative 20. Now, by this time you should see that when we're looking, the next step, if we look ahead, it says factor out the common binomial. That means we need a common binomial. Because we just got done and we have a 4b times b minus 5, we know that when we get done with this second set, we really should end up with a b minus 5. 4 is 2 times 2. So we end up with 1 times 2 times 2 times b. 20 is negative 1 times 20. 20 is 2 times 10. 10 is 2 times 5. We look, we go, what do they have in common? Well, they both have 2 2's. So we're going to factor out that 4. What are we left with? We're left with b minus 5. We then factor out the common binomial. That's b minus 5. And put the rest of it, we put that outside the parentheses, put the rest inside the parentheses, and we get 2b plus 4. That's a plus 4 right there. Okay? So next up, I don't know which one I did next. Oh, 21. That makes sense. So I want you guys to try and do 21 by yourself. Probably take about 7-8 minutes. And then we'll come back and watch me do it. So let's get going. A equals 2. B equals negative 14. And C equals 24. Second step, multiply A times C. That is 2 times 24. We get 48. Step 3, find the factors of 48 that add up to negative 14. Negative 1, negative 48. Negative 2, negative 24. Negative 3, negative 16. And negative 4 and negative 12. And there we go. We know we're... That's not right. Negative 4, negative 12. 5 doesn't work, and so we have negative 6 and negative 8. And that's what we are looking for. So now we go on to the next step, which is rewrite. So we have 2n squared minus 6n minus 8n plus 24. Next step is we group together. So I'm going to go up to the top right here. So we have 2n squared plus 6n plus, it's not a plus 6n, that's a minus 6n, plus a negative 8n plus 24. I'm going to do the greatest common factor. So 2 is a prime number, so we just get 2 and n. 6 is 1 times 6 times n. 6 is 3 times 2. Look at what we have in common. We have an n and a 2 in common. So we have 2n times n minus 3. Over here we have 8. Negative 1 times 8 times n. 8 is 2 cubed. If you want to do that as 2 times 4 and then break apart the 4, that's fine too. 24 is 1 times 24. And remember, because we have this negative right here, we're going to split that 1 into a negative 1 and a negative 1. 24 becomes 2 and 12. 12 becomes 2 and 6. 6 becomes 2 and 3. So 24 ends up being 2, 2, 2, negative 1, negative 1. So here we see that we have an 8 in common, 2 times 2 times 2, and a negative 1. So we pull out a negative 8, and we're left with n minus 3. Factor out the n minus 3, and we're left with 2n minus 8. I know this is difficult, but it actually does pay off in the long run. So just keep at it. Next up, we're going to work on number 22. This one's an easy one to remember. What are the factors of 80 that add up to negative 18? Take about 3 minutes on this and then come back. So we have x times what equals 80. But when we add them together, we get negative 18. Factors of 80, negative 1, negative 80. Negative 2, negative 40. Negative 4, negative 20. Negative 5 and negative 16. Negative 8, negative 10. Hey, there we go. So we go x minus 8 times x minus 10. Easy peasy. And then I'm going to look over at number 23. So I want you to, again, on 23, take about 5 to 10 minutes, however long it takes you guys, as long as you're consistently working to work through 23, then come back. Me, I'm just going ahead, but you guys hit pause, so it's all good. A is 3, B is negative 24, C is 45. So we have A times C, or 3 times 45, which is going to give us 135. We're looking for it to add up to negative 24, so we have to have both negatives. Negative 135 would be negative 136. Negative 3 times negative 45 would add up to negative 48. Negative 9 and negative 15 would add up to negative 24. And hey, that's what we're looking for. So on to the next step, rewrite. 3x squared minus 9x minus 15x plus 45. So we're going to go 3x squared, we now group, minus 9x plus negative 15x plus 45. Do the prime factorization of 3x squared. We get 3 times x times x. 9x squared is 3 times 3, so we end up with negative 1 times 3 times 3 times x. That gives us the greatest common factor of 3x and x minus 3 being left over. Negative 15 is 3 times 5, so we have a negative 1, and then 15 breaks down to 3 times 5. And 45 is just 15 times 3. So end with 1 times 45. Remember, because that we have that negative leading that second binomial, we're going to break our 1 into 2 negatives. That also, because if we don't pull out a negative, we'll end up with negative x plus 3 instead of x minus 3. So this gives us negative 15 times x minus 3. Factor out the x minus 3. And we're left with, where did that go? X minus 3 times 3x minus 15. And that should do it for the time I'm gone. If you finish this on Tuesday, then just have the kids in integrated math work on any missing work they have, work on studying for the final. They all have stuff to be doing. And again, thank you so much for your assistance and for covering for me for these past 2 days. See you guys tomorrow.